get our supplies up, though. Oh, crew members. Refill ship supplies. There we go. That's what I needed to give us. Okay, leave town by sea. Wine and gunpowder scented letter. Quest item. So you had a little run-in with Ben, then you dragged it to my doorstep. You could have wiped your feet before you stomped in, but I digress. I know what you did, and I know who you are. And unlike my unfortunate blockheaded second in command, I recognize a threat when it smacks me upside the head. So, this is me. Captain Aldiz, commander of the GD New Blood Principality, leader of the second largest fleet of pirates in the God's effing Deadfire, inviting you, a terrifyingly powerful and strange watcher, to come and meet with me under strictest parley at Fort Deadlight, which is to say, I promise not to gut you when you arrive for dinner and drinks. Looking forward to having a little Hearthstide chat. I would like to offer you a partnership of the most glorious and goriest variety. I scratch your back, you gut my enemies from hip to jaw, we laugh at their deaths over the bottle of finest rum. Oh, and when you come, bring some candied nuts. Your newest friend, Aldiz. P.S. This is not a trap. Oh. At some point, we have to go to the city of Nekata. Am I just gonna keep on getting caught by side quest? And yet, I really want to go to Fort Deadlight. It feels like it's not a trap. It feels like it's a trap, but at the same time, to heck with it. Away we go. Let's go to Fort Deadlight. What's the worst that can happen? How do I do that? Character. Arena. Okay, so the cook's been damaged, so to speak. And injured for 6 days, it said. So, okay. Gotcha. That's what it meant. Anyway. Back to going on course.
You're the captain who Aldi's invited to parley, ain't you? I'm to keep an eye out.
He taps a finger beneath one eye that isn't covered by a black patch.
It's so I can provide you an escort when you arrive.
Lead on.
Right this way, Captain. It's my pleasure to show our honoured guest around. Aye, it sure is.
You must be Captain. Glad you could make it, Loveson.
The battle-hardened captain rubs the underside of her chin as she regards you pleasantly. I love that I actually subconsciously did that. I swear I didn't even intend to. Her miscolored eyes, one raven wing black, the other an icy blue, rove up and down your face.
Like what you see?
A golden solonet gleams against the scarred skin of her chest. When you notice it, she flips it to reveal a dark mark of her status on the other
The
side.
mark on this side. It means I'm the second highest rank on the Council of Captains. I'm but one chair below that cockrot Ferrante.
She grins.
I know I offered you a full parley, but I'm a pirate, which means I'm loyal to my crew. But otherwise, I lie whenever it benefits me. You killed my fourth chair, and a damn good friend. A part of me might be impressed, but a part of me wants to flay the skin from your face. Understand? If you've an explanation, I'd advise you to give it up real quick.
Despite the violence swirling in her words, she purses her lips, eager for her answer. Show her the solonet. We had a dispute between pirates.
So you settled it, as pirates do. Suppose I can't fault you for that. Still...
Her lashes lower over her blue and black eyes, fanning like dark feathers atop her cheeks.
You cut off my right hand. How do you plan to replace it?
I'll take Benwith's seat on the council.
Only so long as you're loyal to me, you will. But someone's got to fill his seat. Suppose you were to throw your weight behind mine. I think you're seeing the way of things. How we might come to a beneficial agreement.
She winks her blue eye, flicking her solonet on the end of its chain.
Now that we've got that out of the way, I'll admit, I really like you, Captain. You got guts, and not just smattered in your hair. I'd like to make you a deal. Forgive me for dragging you all this way, but I find the proposition of a partnership best works in person. Me and mine within the Principe would make for powerful allies on your side. But would you give us loyalty in return? That I'd like to know.
Of course, if we formed a partnership.
Suppose we've to give each other a test. Make sure it's a good fit. Say you wanted to entice an alliance of like-minded captains. You might start by aiding one of my best in Nekataka.
Ah,
She smuggles through the Undercroft. Goes by the name of Mad Morena, she does. And let me tell you, Dove, she's earned the moniker.
the Undercroft?
It's a hidden port. But I'm sure you'll find it, unaided by me.
She winks at you.
You've a bright future ahead of you, Watcher. See that you don't tarnish it by flying the wrong pirate's flag. Out with the stale and in with the new, eh? I know you've met with Ferrante. That you may even be working for him. That pribbling cock-rot.
With a flick of her fingers, the captain swipes a goblet of God's killer rum off her desk. She takes a long swig before pointing at you.
But that doesn't mean you can't partner with me instead. Don't do anything to let him catch on. Just keep me appraised of certain future events as they shape up.
You want me to spy for you?
How clever you are.
She waggles her eyebrows cheekily over her miscolored eyes. I kind of like her.
No need to commit to it now. You just think on it the next time you're toiling for a man who'd happily gut you. After you've done his bidding, given half the chance. When the time's right, we'll set our strategy. For what can I do you, Loveson?
Tell me about the new blood and the Principe.
We're the future, and we ain't going nowhere. We're pirates, Loveson. We own this sea, and the sea loves us back in her twisted way. Ferrante pines for a homeland he's never seen. But what does Old Valia mean to me or my crew? We're not Valian, and we never will be. Though if you're Valian and you want to join our bloodline, you're more than welcome.
But you weren't founded by refugees from Old Valia?
Generations ago. And I grew like a weed in the deerwood, you see? You say Consueglo me casitas. I say Council of Captains. You say Principe. I say best pirates in the Deadfire. You say Swollenet. I say, well, some things stay the same.
She flicks a gold coin and laughs heartily. About Ferrante.
Got something for me, Dove?
She leans forward with interest, corner of her lips curving
I'm
wickedly.
all ears.
It was Ferrante who told me where to find Benwith.
I figured as much. That's how Ferrante gained his political standing. And that's how he keeps it. With underhanded tactics that whittle his opponents into ruin. Me? I prefer to face my foes head on. Give them the chance to join me before I fucking annihilate them.
The captain's miscolored eyes alight with mischief.
And I like to reward those who support me. I'm good to my allies, you see. For your troubles, Dove, let me share with you a little of my treasure.
You've gained 500 copper. Whew! Ferrante asked me to search Neketa for information on the floating hangman.
Neketaka? But why there, Loveson?
Aldis crosses her arms beneath her breast.
Well, go on then. I'm sure you've heard our saying. Share and share, as is the law of the coast.
I'm to find Yeser the Bararian's eulogy. I think.
And one or both of them are of interest to us in acquiring the floating hangman for our own means. I see.
Dirty fingers grind the length of her jaw.
This Lucia Ravan. I know her name. She captained the Fonferus some 2 centuries ago. If you find anything else, be sure to let me know.
Apparently an old Dakazi paladin, Lucia Revan, commands the floating hangman.
The floating hangman is the remains of the Fonferus. Interesting. Quite very interesting. I had heard rumors as to such. The floating hangman flies a flag featuring the burning palace from Old Valia. As you wish, Dove. I am happily and wholeheartedly at your disposal. At least until I get bored.
She winks her icy blue eye.
What? Like for hobbies?
Her eyebrows dance up to her hairline as she laughs loudly.
When I'm not out plundering the seas, I'm right here ruling my fleet. Suppose I like a good bit of target practice. And of course, who doesn't like rum and a hot bath? Don't guess you like the same?
I could go for a hot bath right now, in fact. She throws her head back and laughs.
Well, sure. You're welcome to use mine. But perhaps later, when there's less of a crowd around.
Farewell. Ooh, and everyone leveled up. Okay. Ooh, I'll get another one of these too. Okay. Okay. That's right, he's a barbarian, I think is what I made him. Yeah, okay. Let's see here, that means... Still don't know where I'd find that information either, even though now I can roam around freely. So now I have a new mysterious ally. Interesting. But everything does seem to be taking me to Nikitaka now, so away we go!
The ring of a bell comes to you on a cold wind. The ring comes again and again, until soon the air is full with the sound of 1,000,000 bells ringing all at once. You feel a resonance in your core, a bell ringing in tune with all the others. Something in you bends, then breaks, and you are borne away on the ringing tide, just another peal among the many. The tide of bells recedes. You lever yourself up onto your knees and realize you have been here before. You stand in Bareth's realm. You are alone. And then, you are not. An indistinct figure stands before you, flickering between forms like a fire-cast shadow. A fixed, taunting grin. Bottomless black eyes. A yawning chasm in the earth. The aspects of Bareth, the Usher and the Pallid Knight, shift in and out of focus. And at their back, 4 indistinct shades hover. You feel an eternity stretch out behind each of them, reaching back to places so distant and yet so near you cannot comprehend their size. The shifting image of Bareth settles on the aspect of the Pallid Knight.
Watcher.
Her voice is the discordant clangor of gongs struck out of time.
I tasked you to discover Aethys's intentions. Tell me what you have learned.
He's draining souls from veins of luminous Adra.
The Pallid Knight knits her brows.
He does not seek to return to the beyond? Intriguing.
Her sickly pale skin pulls tight across the bones of her face, as if the shell of this aspect does not quite fit the impossible creature it contains. The figure nearest Bareth dissolves and reforms in the image of a thin-lipped, ancient crone, whose face has felt the melting kiss of fire. The goddess Wodika strides forward.
Does Aethys frighten you, Bareth? He should. Magran subdued Aethys's influence once before, and yet he returned.
From out of Wodika's shadow shuffles a hunched, bald man you recognize as the god Scan. His skin is mapped with swollen lash scars, and breath whistles through the ragged hole in his face where his nose once was. He does not speak, but stares up at Wodika with naked loathing plain on his ruined face. Wodika steeples her long, knob-jointed fingers.
We must annihilate Aethys now, before he makes a rash decision we cannot easily annul.
She cast a sly look at the Pallid Knight from the corners of her eyes.
A moon would do the job nicely.
You would destroy Ira for what? Spite?
Wodika stares at you down her long nose.
I would destroy it all in the blink of your wide eye if I believed it would benefit me. Empires can be rebuilt. Souls can be reforged. Do not forget it.
The figure beside the aspect of Bareth flows forward in a swirling cloud of ash. The ash falls to the tiles and reveals a molten-skinned woman, leaning on a monstrous, wicked-edged broadsword. Magran's glowing lips curl in disdain.
We must find a solution to the problem of Aethys that is neither do nothing, nor destroy the world. I acted in haste during the Saints' War. You will not goad me into doing the same now. To move against him while his plans are unknown would be the height of foolishness. We must find wisdom in precaution.
What kind of precautions do you suggest?
Mogren looks at you as one might a wayward gob of spit on one's shoe.
It is no business of yours what the gods decide.
Another of the silent figures steps forward, and the warm, golden light of a summer's afternoon spills across your face.
Let's all take a deep, calming breath. Perhaps cooler heads will prevail.
Behind Helia's words, you hear the soft coo of doves.
Aethys has been separated from us for too long. Isn't it possible he intends only to gather enough souls to reclaim his realm in the beyond? He should be welcomed.
You look up then into avian eyes. Through them, you see clouds of starlings converge and divide.
What if he intends to betray you?
Helia puts a feathered hand to her chest.
He wouldn't. Betrayal is not in his nature.
Scan shuffles forward.
Yes, yes. We should welcome Aethys' return to the fold. His gratitude we can leverage to cajole him into divulging his plot. Then, when he believes himself to be in our good graces, we do as Wedeka suggests, and crush him into the earth.
Why have I even been brought here if this is just...
Scan pauses, inspecting you.
And here is the Watcher who wiped dear, desperate Ali's mind. You could have let my followers help her kill the man who tormented her. But you did not. Curious.
Scan licks the ragged edge of his lipless mouth and grins, then turns to Helia.
I did not expect such a deliciously ruthless idea from you, Helia. I am impressed.
Helia's feathered crest stands on end.
You wretched little creature.
Attempting to end Aethys may only make things worse.
Your point is well made, little Watcher. If self-evident, Aethys has not been known to possess a vindictive nature. Indeed, he has occasionally been magnanimous to a fault. However, if we push him to the brink of reason, there is no telling what he may do. He is, as ever, unpredictable.
Something akin to fondness creeps into her voice.
Then what's the point of this exercise?
The Pallid Knight gestures for silence.
Aethys cannot be killed, but he may be subdued. Yet to do so will take immense power and time. Both stand in his favor.
Mogren grits her black glass teeth.
That is why we must ascertain his plans before he has the chance to put them into motion.
She begins to pace. Her steps leave little trails of fire in her wake. Mogren stops and balls her hands into flaming fists.
Even if we manage to destroy his current form, there is the possibility he could return, if he has not already absorbed all of his children.
Absorbed his children? I don't understand.
The Pallid Knight casts a cold, cutting glare in Mogren's direction.
Mogren speaks too freely. That knowledge is beyond your ken, Watcher.
Wodeka waves the gods to silence.
Aethys gathers strength. His strength is a threat to us.
Her voice takes on a sharp, almost panicked edge.
There is no sensible answer to the question of a resurgent Aethys, other than decisive, final action.
There's no cause to act now.
Your opinion is unasked for, but noted. We will act when it is appropriate to do so, and not before.
The Pallid Knight steps away from the half-circle of assembled gods. She pulls herself up to a great height. The words she speaks next come not from her mouth, but from all around you.
Follow him, Watcher.
The black of the Pallid Knight's irises expand until her eyes are as dark and cold as the void between stars. She bends down and brings her ghostly face level with your own.
Yeah, I know. Too much plotting is bad for you. You are exactly right.
Your debt to me remains unpaid.
Hello. I'll do what I can.
She stares at you, unblinking. Like a needle drawn to a magnet. You are pulled toward her one compulsory step at a time. Helpless to resist, you tumble into her impossible eyes. You fall wildly, endlessly, unable to find your bearings or slow your spin. And in the distance, above, no, behind you, comes an insistent ringing. You angle yourself toward it, searching for the sound. A small silver bell appears just inches from your fingertips. You reach for it, straining to still its interminable ringing. The moment you touch it, your soul slams into your body with all the force of a fall from the top of the sky. You blink open your eyes and find yourself on the floor of your ship's cabin, alone.
Dang it.
I got this. I got
My lord, what do you require?
What should I do next?
I suggest we proceed to Neketaka, my lord. It is the largest city in Deadfire, and we shall be better able to get our bearings there.
Is anyone seeing to your schooling, Vela?
I'm learning lots. Which side of the boat is good for fishing? Which side is good for puking when Uncle Ingram's had too much ale?
Okay, let's see here.
Thank you again for maintaining my story in front of Vanessa and the others.
He gives you a grateful smile that fades almost as quickly as it appears.
I didn't enjoy deceiving them, but it seemed simpler than the alternative.
Still thinking about Vanessa?
I realized there could be nothing between us. But it was nice to have a friend all the same.
Remind me, how did we know one another?
Ah, the steward told me about your incident at Cadnua.
He cocks his head and gives you a searching look.
Aethys took a piece of your soul. I suppose it's only natural to lose a few memories along with it. You and I met in Gilded Vale, shortly after your arrival in Deerwood and in the midst of my run-in with the locals.
He gives you a tight, uncomfortable smile.
If that bampot was chafing his own mother's daughter, worth no ill of mine for noticing.
His expression briefly melts into a wickedly mischievous grin as Ilzamer, his awakened personality, emerges and recedes. Go on.
I was with you as you sought Theos and answers regarding your awakening.
He clasps his hands and takes a deep breath.
And you helped me come to terms with mine. You hearken this? So many years and still he's cold as a crag in his teeth. I've learned to appreciate Isilmir's decisiveness, if not her way with words.
I'm glad you're doing better. His smile falters. The moment is brief enough that you might not even notice if you weren't already used to his deflections and evasions.
Back to our journey across the Deerwood.
He clears his throat.
We pursued Theos and discovered the Leaden Key at the center of Widewind's legacy.
He frowns and a deep crease appears across his eyebrows.
And, more importantly, a millennia-old conspiracy to conceal the true origins of the gods.
Theos received his due for his crimes. That's all that matters. He gives you a sidelong glance. There's an uncomfortable pause before he speaks again. The faint trace of smile forms on Ender's lips.
After we parted, I set out to destroy the Leaden Key.
Eder points affably in approval.
It's controlled us for too long. I wanted to free Kith from it. So for 5 years, I've been tracking down Leaden Key circles, searching for the places where they operate in secret.
He knits his brows.
Trying to undo them.
And how's that been going?
The task has been more difficult than I anticipated.
How so?
I don't think I fully understood the weight of the decisions I would have to make. Or the burden of living with them. It was much easier when I only had to follow someone else's lead. My father's, Theos's, yours.
He glances at you out of the corner of his eye. You had a sense of purpose when you began this. Don't lose it.
I haven't. After we defeated Theos, I thought the hard part of undoing his work would be tracking down the Leaden Key's members and operations.
But?
Perhaps this would be easier with an example. I went to a village in Old Avelia. A run-down backwater of a place.
Crazy how that place is coming up more and more.
Aye, right home like it was.
Elos' expression shifts as Elzamar briefly emerges.
Centuries ago, the Leaden Key had intervened to end some heretical cult. The details were lost, but what had endured was a practice of ritual bloodletting. A gruesome, pointless tradition.
He grimaces.
At every full moon, the villagers would feed the soil with their blood. No one, young or old, sick or hale, was exempt.
What did you do?
The village priest administered the practice. Grim old fellow. Reminded me of Theos.
He raises an eyebrow at you.
Wicked El Bunbag, 'tis what the lad means.
He was a tyrant. I was certain that if the villagers were free of his influence, they'd be free from the bloodletting too. So I arranged for him to have an accident.
And then?
The old man died, and the villagers were terrified. They were convinced his death was an ill omen. They blamed it, and every other mishap that befell them, on their lack of faith. So they began bloodletting every week, turning on their neighbors for giving too little.
His lips twist as if the words themselves have a bitter taste.
Instead of a handful dying each year, a few perished every week.
He worked the edge of his sash into a tight knot. He clenches it between his pale, rigid fingers. And now you feel responsible, is that it?
I had to do something, didn't I?
He turns to you with wide, anguished eyes. He pauses again, untwisting the sash at his lap.
I keep wondering what I might have done differently, or how I could have known better.
Ooh, this is one of those tough ones. The villagers chose this. They're to blame here, not you.
I suppose so. I should get some rest. It's been a long day, and you've given me a lot to think about.
We'll talk more later, then. I'll have more conversations with him offline whenever. I totally and utterly forget what we do to keep going.
Hey, this brings back some memories, huh?
There we go. It's the arrow up there that I'm supposed to click. Okay, back to Neketaka. A fog rolls in. Out of nowhere, a heavy fog rolls over the ocean, so dense that you cannot see more than a dozen feet out from your ship. With the fog's arrival, the winds die, the waves calm, and the Defiant is left aimlessly drifting, the only sounds of the hull groaning as if in dread of what's to come. Eerie green lights pierce through the fog as the silhouette of a massive galleon approaches. Black sails, though tattered and rotting, catch in an otherworldly wind, slicing the ship forward at a rapid pace. The captain, a skeleton outfitted in tarnished armor, the glowering eyes, surveys you from the quarter-deck of the decaying galleon. She wraps two fleshless fingers against her chest before pointing right at you. What the goddess of death has marked, I will leave untouched. She nods solemnly. Once then, with a tilt of her skull, she steers the ship away. As the floating hangman turns, several undead sailors shamble across the deck, hungry for a look at your crew. They scratch at the chipped and rotted railing, heads rolling on their exposed spines. The ship disappears back into the fog. A few minutes pass before the fog fully dissipates, and same thing. And the winds pick back up, rustling your sails. The sea is clear, empty, and the other ship is nowhere to be found. Well, the ship we were curious about just showed up. As you walk down the dock, your approach is noted by a cadre of heavy armored Armana. Their leader briskly leads them to intercept you. The harbor master looks you up and down with pursed lips. She looks past you towards your ship.
You're far from home, farmer. How did you make it all this way in your little boat?
The Armana cranes her thick neck to look along the hull of your ship. Her expression conveys equal portions of incredulity and pity.
Why do we gotta be farmers just because we're from Deerwood?
Are you a farmer?
Yeah, but you can't just assume. We got rabble-rousers, too.
Her attention returns to you. The Aruma's mood becomes more formal.
I'm the harbor master, Kauha. I must ask your reason for docking in Neketaka.
I'm following a giant made of Adra, and I need to see someone in the palace about it. The harbor master chuckles to herself, as do the women and men behind her.
Yeah, you do need to see someone, truly. I think it's the animancers in the spire you're looking for.
She taps her
Head.
She taps her forehead 3 times and casts a quick glance back to her companions, and then she made that other remark. The assembled guards roar with laughter and clap the harbor master on her back for a joke. Deep within you, you feel an uncomfortable roiling. You can't be certain if the sensation is physical or spiritual, but it immediately causes nausea and fills your ears with the sound of blood rushing through your head. Cutting through the din, you hear a familiar woman's voice speak. Each word comes slowly, falling with sounds like the chiming of a small bell.
Show them what you are.
To the guards, shut up.
What? Look, I've heard enough. If you value your life, get back on your ship and head for open sea.
The harbor master gestures towards your boat. The men and women behind her nod and murmur in agreement. The nausea continues to build inside you, blood pounding against your skull. Again the woman's voice. Again the chimes.
I will help you.
What's the matter with you? What are you doing? If you're trying to scare us with some cipher mischief, save the purple flames for the tribes of the Outer Islands.
The roar in your head begins to abate. The ringing of the chime becomes clearer, rhythmic. 2 successive peals followed by a brief respite. You realize the chime is ringing in tandem with your heartbeat. You open your eyes, the harbor master gesturing wildly, presumably to get your attention, and yelling in your face, but you hear no words. The ringing of the chime as your heart rate slows, and slows, and slows, and slows.
Now.
What? What is this?
Run for it!
So much for discretion.
Yeah. Discretion doesn't exist now. Fantastic.
Need a fresh jacket or pants? Something more delicate? If you have a frame, I can fit cloth to it without fuss.
The tailor eyeballs your shoulder with, doing some mental calculations.
must think I work for free. Be with you in just a... Almost had it. Damn your eyes.
The sun-scarred dwarf gingerly picks up a splinter in his thumb, or picks at a splinter in his thumb, muttering.
Hazard of the work, really.
He gives up with a frustrated grunt, shaking his hand.
Came in on the sloop? I can hammer your ship together if you're apt to pay me for it.
Zamar bares his teeth and grinds them hard enough to sound over the noise of the dock. Having trouble with the client?
Aye. Captain Redora hasn't paid me for her commissioned firepower.
Zamar pulls the end of his beard and winces.
While I'm up to my nose in debt, the wild mare gobbles up her coin. And now, pirates are holding my feet to the fire over some sham of a deal.
Zamar winces and tugs harder on his beard in self-administered punishment.
If I don't get Redora's payment, I might as well start carving my swallow net.
What kind of a deal are these pirates offering?
One where I mend Principe ships and no others.
Zamar pulls his hair back from his face with both hands, but only returns it to a tangled configuration.
Near on afoot a shipwright will be eager for an exclusive contract. In particular, one with clients disposed towards getting their ships shot to shit and shot again.
Folk like that come by coin easy, only to lose it all again. I'm not sinking my business on the say-so of a pack of puffed-up bilge rats. Bastards are driving away business until I give in.
If someone bought Redora's commission, would that solve your money problems?
Aye, but only once she fesses up that she doesn't have the coin.
Sifting among his beard, Zamar finds a black hair and plucks it out.
Call me a fool for holding out hope. She's an old client and a friend.
If it gets me a discount on your labor, I could hunt down Redora.
You do that? A fair price goes without saying, Cully.
Zamar untangles his hand from his beard to link his thumb and forefinger with a wink.
It all comes down to blasted pans and pyres in the end, doesn't it?
Zamar spits towards the dock pilings and glances back to the work still to be done.
Oh, come take a look.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so right now, if I can find Redora around here. Please, no interruption.
Please, sir. A coin.
The child moves closer and tugs at the hem of your garments. In the midst of his pitiful gesture, the urchin's hand discreetly dips into your coin purse. Give 1 copper. Stay out of trouble.
Hey, thanks.
The coin vanishes up the urchin's sleeve.
We're full up, I'm afraid. If you're looking for lodging, you'll have to hope there's room at the tavern.
The family scribe offers you a pleasant smile but seems preoccupied by other matters. Who's in charge here?
You'll find Otello Valera upstairs in his study.
Isn't this something? Give me a real challenge.
Okay. There's a hollow book. I thought it might have been a secret passage or something. But if it's a hollow book, I'll leave their property to them.
A new face in the Valera holds.
Otello Valera's face is lined and weary, but his coat is tightly buttoned, his posture faultless. Clark, at your service.
Courtly manners are welcome here.
He inclines his head.
My time is not inexhaustible, but I am willing to spare it.
He opens his palms and invites you to continue.
What can I do for you?
What does your family do for the Valayan Trading Company?
Valera ships escort goods and merchants from island to island across Deadfire. The Principe dogs show us their stern whenever they spot Valera colors on the horizon.
Leave it to a swabby from the Republics to think a pirate showing them their rear be a compliment.
The Orlin chuckles at his own joke.
Behold, Aethys has risen again. He is glorious in form and purpose. Gone shepherds us all, traveler. Seek out his temple along the sacred stair, that thy path shall be made clear.
Madiko, where is that spoiled brat?
A woman in fine clothes clutches a ledger in both hands. She searches the faces of passers-by, settling on yours with an uncertain frown. What seems to be the problem?
Laro is past due for a company meeting. Mother wants me to drag the elusive louse back by his ear.
She tucks the book under her arm.
You'd think this district was a maze, the way he manages to hide.
She glances over your shoulder and sighs, then looks back at you with sudden recognition.
The spirit magnet? Sientere, that I did not recognize you. If you desire to get in the graces of the Valiant Trading Company, we can help each other.
How can I help?
Could I persuade you to watch out for Laro? I'd pay generously for your trouble.
Nera has been digging her nails into the ledger, leaving crescent moon shape impressions in the binding. She notices your interest and holds the book protectively close.
I'm concerned because Laro tends to feud with Orso, one of the local Valera rats.
What do you mean by Valera rat?
The Valeras. A brood of sea vermin playing at nobility.
She hefts her ledger as if to bring it down on a pest.
We squabble and compete, but Laro, the Pastinago, takes it too far.
Pastinago, literally the Valayan term for carrot, but conversationally meaning idiot. If I happen across Laro, I'll let you know.
Would you? I'll be waiting at the estate in case he happens to return.
Nera thumbs over her shoulder.
Laro and his miscreant friends carouse at the tavern, the falls above the Adra Mill, and the southwestern bridge. If you see him, tell Laro to get his good-for-nothing ass back home.
Well, we do have this thing with chasing a rogue god to the ends of Aora, but I guess if it's on the way.
Of course.
Oh, hello. Welcome to my shop. It's such a pleasure to see a new face.
Sansa bounces on the back of his heels, a wide grin plastered on his worn face.
How might I assist you?
What do you do here?
Oh, I am a cartographer. I make maps. I'm not half bad at it either. And may the gods forgive my immodesty for saying so. If you need a map of any settled region of the Deadfire, I am your man. And my commission rates are quite generous. It used to be I would take to the sea and do a bit of charting myself. But I haven't the time. Too many maps need making. A shame, too. There's a whole swath of the Deadfire I've yet to see. I'm quite keen to write a book, in fact. Oh, but I won't trouble you about that. Excuse my nattering on, won't you?
You said you were writing a book?
I'm putting together an explorer's account of the Deadfire. Or at least the part of it Queen Onekaza's tribe has laid claim to. My book will be the first of its kind. The Explorers Club will go mad for it. Or, well, that was the idea. It's a fiercely dangerous enterprise, in point of fact, and nobody will agree to chart the islands for me. You'd think ship captains would be a bold-hearted bunch. I offered fair recompense. I'm not exactly the most powerful fighter, or I do it all myself. Still, wouldn't it be wonderful? An explorer's guide to the Deadfire. Someday.
I've got a bold heart and a ship. Need a hand?
Do you mean it? This is... Wow! I can't thank you enough.
Hands on his hips, Seraphim grins.
It's a lot of ground, I mean water to cover, and some of these islands are in very dangerous waters.
Despite his words, the gleeful expression on Sansa's face is not faded.
Don't worry, I planned it all out. We'll get your feet wet first. With a little experience under your belt, I'm sure you'll get a taste for it. Nothing will stop us. The idea is to explore all the islands that haven't been charted yet, or even named. That falls to you, Amico. You can't tell me you've never wanted to name your own island. I thought we could start with the waters around the company outpost at Port Magi. There are 2 islands in the region, and nobody's taken much notice of them yet. Once you're back, I'll start filling in my map and adding your findings to the book. Oh, this will be wonderful.
Adding those side quests. Adding all them side quests.
The Queen is holding court today with the Valians and Rowathians.
How long before they're killing each other?
Wager on it?
Let's check the mill. That's one of the places those boys could be hanging out. I think is what they said, right? And what's... Tavern in the southwest is bare. Oh, okay. So tavern, southwestern bridge, and behind the district's waterfall. Gotcha. Cortina's voice finds you before she does. Her barks of laughter and cheerful directives resounding throughout the mill. She flits from worker to worker, offering critique and approval. She finally spots you. A shadow of apprehension passes over her face. She hides it with a toothy grin.
If you are here about the taxes, tell the queen... Oh, you are not the tax collector.
She narrows her eyes, her hand twitching at the hilt of her blade.
What business brings you to my mill?
What do you do here? Cortana looks around the room with an exaggerated wonder, her green eyes wide. She laughs a little to herself and runs a finger across the arm of the chair beside her. She holds her finger up for your inspection. It's caked in shimmering blue dust.
We mill luminous, of course. Take big chunks, break into smaller chunks, crush into dust-sized chunks, pair con plancanet. It is really not so complicated.
She gives you a condescending little pat on the arm. Who are you?
Okay.
Cortana leans in close, one prodigiously furry eyebrows raised.
You go around asking just anyone in Queensbirth personal questions, maybe you end up dead in a ditch. Have caution, eh? Lucky for you, I am a woman of honor.
She gives you a sunny smile and claps her hands together.
I direct luminous milling for the Valian Trading Company. It's a nice job, huh? And I'm quite good at it. You want to know more? Maybe a drink first, per guano.
Cortana claps you on the shoulder, a playful smile on her lips.
Good day.
So they grind Adra into a powder here. Interesting to know.
I already have one guest in my head. I don't need another.
Sorry, lad. Thought that chip on your shoulder were for all to see.
Do you ever have a thought and just decide to keep it to yourself?
More than you know, my dear inmate. More than you know.
Queensbirth, Petrie's Overlook, the Gullet, the Brass Citadel, the Sacred Stair, and Serpent's Crown. Okay. Okay, so they are not at the bridge. Or I think that's the bridge they were talking about. Let's see here.
Shh. Keep your voices down, my cullies.
Aha.
You want something?
Okay. I'll leave them alone. It's not them. That's the tavern, so I gotta get to the entrance down there.
I don't have a voice for shanties these days. Too much salt in the air.
Not even my Vithrak darling.
A tiny minute of falsetto per complancanet.
Do you enjoy a coin, my friend? Can you lift a sword?
Hail and welcome to the Wild Mare, friend.
A jovial man at the bar grins and motions you closer. His arms are corded with thick muscle and cross-hatched with scars.
Now, what can I do for you? Be seeing you.
Oh, I found the captain.
Where in the blazes is that old man?
A young woman lingers near the stage with a mug of ale clutched tight in her hands. Though she shows no interest in the dancers, the bags beneath her eyes speak to the long night she spent drinking in the tavern. She looks lazily about the room until her gaze alights on you with interest.
Have you seen an old elf hanging around here lately? Dresses funny, probably drunker than an eel in a barrel of mead.
No, can't say I have.
Thunderous crushing void, I thought as much.
She sighs heavily and pinches the bridge of her nose.
Listen, the guy I'm looking for owes me a lot of money. 5,000 coppers. You help me find him, and I'll give you 20%.
Who owes you money?
The drunk old goat I was pestering you about, Oswald. Like the credulous fool I am, I gave him a loan, and he ran off before paying me back.
Deal.
I can't thank you enough. No one's been willing to so much as tell me the date until you came along. The man I'm looking for, Oswald, was especially fond of one of the courtesans upstairs, Analis. Maybe you can get more out of her than I can. She refuses to speak to me, the snippy little cur.
Have you tried being nice?
She wasn't receptive to my particular charms. Let's see you do better. Maybe you can get more out of her than I can. She refuses to speak to me, the snippy little cur.
By the way, it's just occurred to me, I think this is Marisha. I think this might be Marisha Ray. The little underlying in her voice. Marisha's got this very specific thing with her voice, I've noticed. And it's not me saying anything bad. It's more along the lines of I just study people's voices, so I notice like the little specifics in there. And Marisha's got this little underlining growl to it that I think that's her, if I'm not mistaken. Plus, she does good at characters that are annoyed like this. You know, like she's currently doing with Beauregard in the second Critical Role campaign.
What do you want to know?
Who are you?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. But hey, what the hell?
She rakes an impatient hand through her dirty hair.
I'm one of the countless minor nobles that litter the Deerwooden countryside. You know Admeth Hadret, hero of the War of Defiance? He's my great whatever.
So, what's the problem with that?
When people find out, they start doing weird shit. Calling me lady, opening doors for me, buying me drinks. Really, the title is a mockery. It means nothing to me.
What's your history with Oswald? She groans theatrically like she can't bear to recount the tale.
The man's a family friend. Has been for... must be 4 generations now? Perk of being an elf, eh?
What does Oswald owe you money for? She stares into the depths of her mug and sighs.
It's my fault, really. I should have known better than to believe that damned old drunk knew what he was doing. The man's a wizard. You understand, and a tinkerer. He convinced himself and me he could, with enough luminous Adra, create a device that would add years to one's life.
I just had a weird moment with my water bottle. I think there's a burr on that dang thing. Either that or... Huh. Yeah, because I don't think I saw a wasp in here anyway.
Must have been a crock of shit, because one day he up and ran without a word of explanation or apology. I thought I knew him better than that.
I have a suspicion I'm not going to like the end of this story. But okay.
You say I cannot down the rest? Watch me, Miko.
A Valian sailor raises her tankard and arcs her back to invite a torrent of ale down her expectant mouth. Holding this pose with nothing to show for it, she taps the tankard's base and furrows her brow at its apparent emptiness. Her companion shakes his head and focuses his attention elsewhere.
Madiko, it is no wonder I thirst.
As she wipes her mouth with the back of her hand, her eyes widen to meet yours.
Ado, why do you stare?
Zamar sent me to collect your debt.
Merla, and he hired muscle.
Redora takes a shaky step back.
Sientere, but you are too late to collect.
She holds out her palms and flinches at the blow that doesn't come.
A gang in the northern alley stole every coin. I cannot hire a crew, much less repay Zamar.
Redora slowly lowers her trembling hands. Zamar is having some pirate trouble. Could this gang be connected?
If they wanted Zamar to thirst for coin, it is possible. Botzos would regret it when I turn my cannons to their mast.
Redora raises her empty mug as the vow is struck.
Those the cannons you be waiting for Zamar to cast you? Because I'll be seeing more holes in that plan than in any Principe mast's future or no.
His green eyes pry at her form over crossed arms. Why don't you tell me what happened?
Wizard lights drew me like a moth to the alley north of the wild mare.
Her eyes turned downcast.
The blow to the back of the head that followed, Merlight hurt.
She touches a spot behind her ear and hisses.
Then a wolf sat on my chest while a group of thugs went through my pockets.
A wolf?
It growled like a thunderstorm and drooled on my uniform.
Redora pats a stain on her shoulder.
I stumbled back here and traded all I had left for the comforts of the mare.
Sounds like my quarrel is with this gang. Farewell.
When you got their leader, tell them Radora sent you.
She raises her mug and winks. Nellis. A young woman reclines on the cushions, a hookah hose held delicately in one hand. Eyes closed, she sings to herself. Her voice is soft and inviting. She doesn't move when she hears your approach, but slowly opens her eyes with a lazy smile.
Come, lay your head on my breast. I will read to you the work of my favorite poet, Skilba.
Khan's looking for someone named Oswald. Sound familiar?
I'm sure I don't know who you're talking about. Now, please leave.
It's clear you care for him quite a bit for him. Let me help. She chews on a knuckle, brow furrowed, deciding whether she should trust you. She then sighs and gives you a sheepish smile.
Oswald has visited oft of late. He's a sentimental old man, and he longs for the words of our homeland, Adir. I would often read the old epics to him in their original Eldadiran.
Her eyes gain a distant, unfocused look, and a wistful smile spreads across her face.
He's grown paranoid recently, however, always muttering about the shadows following him and other such nonsense. It was quite unnerving, frankly. He came to me in a panic a few days ago and shoved his journal into my hands. He told me he'd be back for it, but I've not seen hide nor hair of him since. I wonder, perhaps his journal would help you find him. Here, take this key. You'll find the journal in my armoire.
Watch and learn.
Goldag. This afternoon, I walked the streets of Nakata and felt an unusual spring in my step. I cannot be sure whether it's fine weather of the archipelago or my great distance from the Briarwood and the blasted Goose and Fox Inn that gifted me this buoyancy of spirit, but I'm grateful nonetheless. I've seen no sign of the girl. Halia be praised. God's willing I have slipped her net at last. Mexawag. The shadows are strange here, seeming to move of their own accord. As I passed from Queensbirth to Pellercles Overlook this morning, I could have sworn I saw one turn to face me, then another. I fled the area quickly as I could, and as far as I could tell, I was not followed. I have many enemies, as any man of roguish adventurous mien should, though none have cause to search for me here. I know these shadows must be a trick of the mind, but still I am uneasy. The next entry is written in shaky wild hand, clearly penned in great haste. Rattlesdag. As I put down to bed this evening, I heard a faint whispering beneath my window. I always leave it open to better catch the breeze, and thanks be to Halia for it, or I might have been none the wiser. However, when I went to investigate, no one was there, and yet I know I've heard voices. I may be old, perhaps even paranoid, but I am not crazy. I must leave this place with all haste. Gods protect me in my flight. On the next and final page of the journal is the symbol of Wodica, a broken crown scrawled in deep red ink.
Have you got any leads on that mad old goat yet?
Here's the journal. Khan flips through Oswald's journal and then stops to look at you and looks up at you, eyes wide. Someone has hastily scrawled the broken crown symbol of Wodica across the last page. Khan mutters to herself. She traces the same symbol with her finger and frowns.
Oh, Oswald, you really stepped in it now, haven't you? Getting mixed up with Woodikins? You damned old fool.
She shakes her head sadly and closes the journal with a snap.
Where could they have taken him?
You must have sailed through half of the Deadfire to get to Natica. Anything catch your eye?
Not really. To be honest, I spent most of the trip out from Defiance Bay, bent over the bulwark, giving Andra a taste of my innards. I hate boats.
You and me both. Khan laughs a little, mostly to herself. She seems only to half hear you, her thoughts wandering elsewhere. Eder gives a nod and a wink. Saffron strokes his braided beard beneath the quiet smirk.
Damn, if only I could find that captain who gave us passage to the Deadfire. Bet he'd know. Wait a tick.
She blinks, remembering.
When our ship neared Nekataka, the bosun told me about a weird temple on an island in the Karatapu Channel, southwest of the city. She wouldn't tell me what it was for, though. Got real spooked when I asked.
Weird temple? Sign me up.
Go take a look then, and let me know what you find.
She marks the location on your map with a flourish.
With any luck, you'll catch the old goat there in one piece, and we'll both leave here with some weight in our purse.
If you told me a few years ago that I'd end up following you on another crazy errand, I'd have said you were out of your mind.
He gives a dismissive gesture with his pipe hand.
Not because I got anything against you, more that trouble seems to come looking for you wherever you go. Yet, here we are again, probably on our way to die. Well, you already did, but me, I mean...
He cocks his head to one side and smiles. I couldn't go having all the fun by myself.
Well, real nice of you to share. Someday I'll have to get you a gift. And wouldn't you know it, this time is shaping up to be crazier than the last one.
There's something accusatory behind Edder's eyes.
But I gotta say, I appreciate how you've handled things. Times like these, staying decent's not as easy as it sounds. Thought you were weird at first, of course, but you've surprised me.
There's no point to any of this if I have to sacrifice my beliefs.
There's something to that. I like to think I'm the same way, except I chose to believe in the goodness of a giant statue that kills everything it passes.
He scrapes his teeth over his lower lip.
Sometimes I have second thoughts about that. I've been meaning to ask, though. How is it you never seem to lose your way through all this? What is it tells you you're on the right path?
I believe in helping people who need it. Sometimes it's more complicated, but often it's not.
Well, hard to argue with that. And I might get some strange looks if it did.
Edder heaves a sigh that sounds as if he's been building up for months, his smile tight-lipped and wistful.
When I was a boy, things were simpler. Aethys was more like a character we read about in church.
Easier to worship a god when their worst traits are swept under the rug.
Yeah, I guess it was. Well, most stories had him helping folks or making the world work as it should.
He adopts the smile and gently pointed a finger of a coaxing parent.
You pray to him. He might help you too.
He lets the finger drop and the smile fade.
There was no cost to it. No confusion about his will or followers taken into extremes. Following Aethys was right. Had no reason to question.
He pauses. It could be the light, but the creases around his eyes and mouth seem longer and deeper than your memory of them.
Do you think there's any way that following him could still be the right path? After all we've seen?
Of course, even Bereth wants us to follow him.
I suppose that's true. Not really a point in Aethys' favor, though. Anyway, I didn't mean for this to get depressing. I think this was just a long way of saying I appreciate the way you've guided things. Makes me feel like I'm doing some good, going with you.
He shakes his head with a look on his face like he remembered a joke. I didn't fully look through that, did I? I might need to pop back in there and fully look around. And if not, then I've looked at the bridge. I've looked at the tavern. So there's only one other place they can be if that's not it. Yeah. So we have not got him there. Which means the only other place we have is Tavern, Southwestern Bridge, and the district's waterfall. So we got to find behind the district's waterfall.
All right. Which one of us am I thinking of now?
You be thinking of the Watcher.
That's 10 in a row. That's some talent you got.
Aye, the talent of noticing who you be glancing at before you ask me who you be thinking of.
Cute little character moment. I like those.
A giant? One of the Rathoon?
No, much bigger. Such is the rumor.
Sounds like sailor tales to me.
Well, we're hearing a little bit about it at least. The waterfall's over there, so maybe, okay, I think maybe if I go up that way, it'll take me down that little side alley, and that'll get me behind the waterfall.
The Hazanui is at the palace, blaming the Valians for attacking one of their ports.
Well, did they?
Of course not. But the Queen must calm them down.
Have you heard about the commotion at the palace?
Of course. Something about Luminous Adra.
A giant made of Luminous Adra.
All I know is that they're all at each other's throats up there.
Someone's coming. Yeah. Okay, I've gone the right direction. Against the backdrop of jeering youths, a young woman raises her arms with an air of practiced drama before her. Before her, two men stand across from each other, mirroring scowls.
You both attest that you have made all possible efforts to come to a peaceful...
The woman trails off as you approach, and you find yourself a sudden target of the crowd's attention.
Who is this Nasenale? How many cousins do you have or so?
Postenago. Does that look like any cousin of mine?
How should I know? Your kin lie with eels.
Orso glares at Laro and bites back whatever insult he had at the ready.
We have business. What do you want?
I'm here to fetch Laro. Nara is looking for him. A few chuckles arise from the bystanders, and Laro's face blushes with embarrassment.
The family keeps you on a tight leash, Laro. Will getting impaled on a Valera blade prove something to them?
What's your words, Oaf? You want the Juana to know we're dueling?
My bad so to the tribals. We should be free
to settle matters on Valiant terms.
Orso glances in your direction with annoyance.
Small wonder the old empire collapsed in civil strife if this is the Valian way.
He sneers.
And how do your colonies fare, Adira?
Orso narrows his eyes at Eloth. Loro, what say you?
We are civil enough to kill each other without making an incident out of it.
You don't have to do this, you know.
If you want a civilized resolution, you're talking to the wrong folk.
Eloth tints his fingers and smiles.
This street thug called my family a warren of corrupt inbreds. But is there a dung heap in all the world that does not have a little Valera cousin scratching through it?
Lara opens his arms wide and smiles to the milling crowd.
That wolf he calls mother would have us live out our days polishing Bardato silver.
Orso spits at the ground between them. Does this have to be settled by death? Surely there are better alternatives.
Nothing less than the total disgrace of the Valeras would satisfy me. Then you will die unfulfilled.
Orso shakes his head and huffs. Would your families approve of this?
My brother Martino would applaud if he knew. My sister would not approve in the slightest. But this is my duty, all the same.
Is this slight worth one of your lives?
This is but one chapter in a long anthology of Bardato arrogance. Arrogance? Per complancanet, you should thank me for my patience.
Fine, do what you like, just get it over with.
I am ready to cross swords if you are, Laro.
Gelarde, shall we resume?
The duelists square off and tentatively circle each other. Stocky Orso moves with heavy strides while Laro takes precise, measured steps. The duelist seconds bring forth their weapons. Take the opportunity to study each of the opponents. You note the sweat on Laro's upper lip and the furrow of concentration cleaving Orso's brow. Find a better vantage point to observe the fight. You maneuver through the crowd with ease and find an uninterrupted view of the escalating conflict. Once the swords are delivered to their respective bearers, the seconds back away in melancholy silence. The duelists cross their swords and bow in salute. The tranquil moment ends with a burst of motion. Distract Orso with an insult. You call out some choice words regarding Orso's father and a lamprey, while Orso searches the audience and Laro takes advantage to the opening, rushing him, knocking Orso off his feet. Orso scrambles to rise, but Laro pushes his blade into his chest, pinning him to the spot as a gasp sweeps across the audience.
Merle, he's dead.
Laro wipes fresh blood from the back of his shaking hands. Laro, go find your sister so she knows you're alive.
Of course. I let Orso's poisonous insults waylay me again. Speak to my mother at Zali. If you happen to be by the estate, our troubles will only worsen from here.
Ahoy, Captain. If I could bend your ear a moment, I'll be aiming to thank you for bringing me aboard.
A furred hand at his belly and one heel out, he bows deeply, drooping ear almost touching the ground.
You run a tight shop, and you ain't no terrible person either. It'd be a welcome change from the Gentleman of Leisure.
Tell me about the Gentleman of Leisure.
The Gentleman is only the finest ship among the Principe, and Captain Ferrante our most respected shipmaster. It were 2 honors and a half to be chosen to join his crew.
I detect a butt in there.
Aye, you ain't wrong. Joining the Gentleman meant leaving the Sorcerer, leaving the only family I've ever known.
Family?
I never knew no kin till the Sorcerer. They be my Salt family. And to me, that'd be better far than blood.
Why were you willing to leave crew to join mine?
Now don't sell yourself a Suole short, Cap, nor me neither. I know an opportunity when I bought it.
He chuckles.
I'd seen what there were to be seen upon the Gentleman, learn what ropes were to be learned. Methinks a watcher after a dead god'll thrust me into an whole new set of eye openings. And believe you me, I do appreciate myself a good thrust.
He grins. Eder gives a nod and a wink. Aloth rolls his eyes. I'm glad you're with me.
I've a gift for you. This trinket be from one of the first ships I hunted. Malnage would have snatched it had I not found a perfect hiding spot.
So where did you hide it?
I know were I to tell you that, you mightn't want it no more.
Seraphon gives an innocent whistle while scratching his ass as subtly as one could scratch it. Eder seems pleased.
Just a jest, Cap. Nay, I tucked it away in my beard. Didn't wear braids back then, so my hair caught about everything from feathers to fish bones. Malnage shook me down for plunder after each raid. I figured out she wouldn't go nowhere near my beard. Said my face were like a saw-rip fetish.
Why did Manage treat you so badly?
Don't
Or
rightly know for
Malnage.
sure, Cap. Thought at first she wanted me. Lasses be that way sometimes, treating you worse the more they fancy you. Given she tried to get me killed twice within our first fortnight together, I thought mayhap she were in deepest love.
He chuckles quietly. Eder gives a nod and a wink. Were you attracted to her?
Didn't fancy her in the least, but a man has needs. And I figured at the time that she were as wet as any other lass. Figured I'd give her a whisper about what we might get down to in the old. Her answer were an unequivocal no, made with a sharpness. Might have been the closest I've ever been to death.
He winces and rubs his throat. Thank you for the gift, Seraphon.
You be entirely welcome. Now, if you'll pardon me, I've roundabout reached my limit for sentiment.
Seraphon salutes, grinning broadly, and turns away. You've gained an item, Cypher's Shackle. The item was put in your stash. Of Constitution, +1 Constitution, Shattered Change, resistance to all dexterity afflictions. Huh, interesting. Okay, how did I get up here? Ah, here.
you might visit. Lady Izali Bardato. Custom dictates, I say, at your service. I have not the time for such lies.
Very nice. She regards you with a cool expression, but stands with a fighter's poise.
You saw my son dueling with the Valera boy. At least he survives to learn from his mistakes. Those who aid my blood profit by it.
Izali produces a purse from her desk drawer and tosses it in your direction. You've gained 1,000 copper.
When Valera and Bardato cross each other, only blood and sorrow remain.
Izali sighs, her gaze turning away. Do you see your families ever making peace?
Perhaps in time, if Great Wodika judges us worthy of supporting the company. Word has spread fast about the little spectacle at the docks. You've certainly caught everyone's attention. Perhaps the Watcher of Kadnua and House Bardato can help one another.
What is it you want?
Queen's Beth whispers of a Valera plot against my family. Something grander than pointless duels. You are a newcomer to the Deadfire, uniquely positioned to loosen Valera tongues.
She taps her chin and regards you thoughtfully.
Zilli Valera strums a lute by the watchtowers. A meek-tempered boy. Fonder of song and drink than the family business. He might spill something of his family's affairs.
Put in a good word for me at the Valayan Trading Company, and it's a deal.
I'll have it taken care of at once.
She dips a quill and makes a quick mark in one of her documents.
There. May it open doors for you. Try not to alert the Valeras of our knowledge. That is the point of involving an outside agent.
You notice something unusual. Your attention is drawn to Elzel's desk. Among assorted ledgers and documents sits a breath seal, still dripping with heated wax. The drippings have dried into an almond-shaped pattern which resembles the shape of an eye fringed with bird feathers. A nictating membrane flicks across the surface in a barely perceptible wink.
Are you still with me?
Izel breaks your focus by waving her hand in front of your face. She glances between you and her tidy desk, frowning. Your desk, the eye. She glances back at her desk again, this time with impatience.
I venture that you're working too hard.
Farewell. I hate that someone had to die in that duel. I tried every combination of things to try to get it to stop, but unfortunately it was one of those things. Sacred Stair is the one that I'll go to for the... Okay. And Kanga's Paris and the Serpent's Crown. Okay.
that an Orlin Cajun back? They don't let you have those in Deerwood anymore. That one's in pretty good condition.
I got nowhere else to turn. Stonehill is going to kill me.
Don't drag me into your mess, Bertenno. Not again.
Then you leave me no choice. I'm sorry.
Hey, come back with that! Madico!
Oh, nice. Constructs.
Fortune for a pun, good sir?
That flaccid Batso!
The young wizard clutches the countertop, looking as if she's either going to vault over it or snap in half.
You had none of that, huh?
The imp mutters to himself in a dark, guttural tone.
That's what I thought. What am I going to do? Think, Fasina.
Looks like your customer forgot to pay.
Very funny. Bertenno just took Rokawa's fingers, which is no joke to me. He must have wanted to raise some fast coin. Arkemir will flay me alive over those damned gloves.
Fasina cradles her brow and groans. Strange that the constructs didn't attack him for stealing.
Is it strange? I don't know. Go consult Arkemir's grimoire if you're that curious.
Flustered, she finds any excuse to look elsewhere. What aren't you telling me?
Not that it's any of your business, but Bertenno used to spend a lot of late nights here.
Fasina coughs into her fist and avoids eye contact.
I got into the construct's guts and marked off Bertenno as a safe visitor so they would not attack him. And before you ask, no, I will never do this again.
She crosses her arms resolutely. Why does he need the money?
He said that he's in debt to a Rautayan captain by the name of Hamuto Stonehill. By all accounts, a deadly serious man.
Why are these gloves so important?
You do not know Arkemir, do you? He is as cheap as a Wodican clerk. Whatever he loses from those gloves, he will take out on me. Somehow.
I'll get those gloves back for you.
You will? If you are expecting some payment or reward, I do need to keep this under wraps.
Let's say I'm doing my good deed for the day.
If there's a burden on your conscience, then I am not opposed to you offloading it on my behalf. I do not know where Bertenno fences his goods, but he mentioned an appointment at the Bra Citadel docks.
Fasina bites her thumbnail and glares at the door, seeming to wish it would burst off its hinges.
Hamuto Stonehill must be as dangerous as he sounds, or else Bertenno wouldn't be so panicked.
Show me what you have for sale.
Isn't this something?
And with that, I have got to wrap it up because it is time to wrap up for the night. Let's see here. Yeah, I'll park us in the shop because that'll remind me what the heck I'm doing. You know, that sort of thing. But anyway, if you want to find all of the other Let's Plays and the like, go to tscn.tv/play. And until next time, play on and see you guys.